William Thompson stood at his kitchen window every morning at exactly 7:15. He would hold his coffee mug and watch the sun rise over Maple Street while Kate brushed her teeth upstairs. This was their routine for the past 5 years of marriage. Everything about their life looked perfect from the outside. Their house was the prettiest one on the block. Kate had painted the front door a cheerful yellow color that made everyone smile when they walked by. She planted flowers in neat rows along the walkway. Red roses mixed with white daisies created a beautiful pattern that neighbors often stopped to admire. The mailbox had both their names written in elegant letters that Kate had carefully painted herself. William worked as an architect at Morrison and Associates downtown. He designed homes for young families who dreamed of having what he and Kate already possessed. His office walls were covered with pictures of happy couples standing in front of houses he had created for them. His coworkers often joked that William was living proof that architects could build the perfect life, just like they built perfect homes. Kate taught kindergarten at Sunny Hills Elementary School. She was the teacher that every parent requested for their child. Her classroom was filled with colorful decorations and the sound of children laughing. Kate had a special way of making even the shyest kids feel brave enough to speak up during story time. The principal often used Kate as an example when training new teachers about how to connect with students. Every evening at 6:30 sharp, William and Kate would take their daily walk around the neighborhood. Kate would link her arm through William's, and they would stroll past the other houses while talking about their day. Mrs. Henderson from next door would wave from her porch and comment to her husband about how lovely the young couple looked together. Other neighbors would pause their lawn mowing or stop watering their gardens just to watch them pass by. The couple had been together for 8 years total. They met at a coffee shop near the university where Kate was studying education, and William was finishing his architecture degree. William had spilled coffee on Kate's textbook and spent 20 minutes apologizing while helping her clean it up. Kate later told her friends that she knew right away that any man who cared that much about ruining a stranger's book was someone worth knowing. Their wedding 5 years ago was the social event of the season in their small town. Kate wore her grandmother's pearl necklace and a dress that made her look like a princess from a fairy tale. William cried when he saw her walking down the aisle. The reception was held in the community center that had been transformed into a garden paradise with hundreds of white lights and fresh flowers everywhere. Everyone expected William and Kate to announce a pregnancy soon. At dinner parties and family gatherings, relatives would make jokes about when they planned to add a little one to their perfect family picture. Kate would smile and change the subject while William would clear his throat and talk about work instead. Their friends assumed they were just waiting for the right time. On weekends, William and Kate hosted barbecues in their backyard. Kate would spend hours preparing potato salad and her famous chocolate brownies, while William grilled burgers and hot dogs for their guests. They had a wooden picnic table that William built himself and string lights that created a magical atmosphere when the sun went down. Their friends would stay late into the evening, laughing and playing card games, while Kate served coffee and dessert. But if someone had looked very carefully during those perfect evening walks, they might have noticed that Kate did most of the talking. If they had watched closely during the backyard parties, they would have seen that William smiled at all the right moments, but his eyes seemed to be looking at something far away. And if they had been very observant, they might have caught the split second when Kate thought no one was watching and her bright smile would fade into something that looked almost like sadness. The truth was that even the most beautiful pictures can hide small cracks that grow bigger over time. 2 weeks after their devastating conversation, William came home from work carrying a manila envelope that Kate knew contained legal documents before he even opened his mouth. He set the papers on the kitchen table and told Kate that he had seen a lawyer and started the process of filing for divorce. Kate stared at the envelope and felt like she was looking at the death certificate for their marriage. She had known this moment was coming, but seeing the official papers made everything feel final and real in a way that hurt worse than she had expected. Kate asked William if he was sure this was what he wanted, and if there was any chance they could try marriage counseling first. William's answer was gentle but firm. He told Kate that he had been thinking about their relationship for a long time before she brought up their problems that night on the couch. He said that he realized they had both changed into different people than they were when they got married, and those new people were not compatible with each other anymore. Kate signed the divorce papers on a rainy Thursday afternoon in October. She sat at the kitchen table where they used to eat breakfast together every morning and wrote her name on the lines that would legally end their 8-year relationship. William was not there when she signed the documents. He had moved into an apartment across town the week before. The house felt enormous and empty after William took his belongings and left. Kate would come home from school and hear her footsteps echoing in rooms that used to be filled with conversation and laughter. She started leaving lights on in every room just to make the house feel less lonely when she walked through it at night. Kate's divorce was finalized on a cold day in December. She spent that evening sitting by their fireplace, looking through old photo albums and remembering who she and William used to be when they were young and believed their love would last forever. Kate realized that sometimes people grow apart even when they start out loving each other deeply. 6 months later, Kate sold the house on Maple Street and moved into a small apartment closer to her school. She kept some of the furniture that held good memories and donated the rest to charity. Kate learned that starting over was scary, but also exciting in ways she had not expected. Kate never regretted whispering the truth that night, even though it ended her marriage. She realized that living with honesty was better than living with a beautiful lie. Kate understood that some love stories, and not because anyone did anything wrong, but because people change, and sometimes they change in directions that lead them away from each other. The whisper that broke William had actually set them both free from a marriage that had become a prison built out of habit and fear of change. Kate learned that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let someone go when holding on is hurting you both. She discovered that she was stronger than she had known, and that she could build a happy life even after her heart had been broken into pieces. When William finally turned around to look at Kate, his face was like a mask that showed no emotion at all. His voice was calm and controlled when he spoke, but Kate could hear something dangerous underneath the surface. William told Kate that maybe she was right about everything she had just said. Maybe he was not the man she had married anymore. Kate felt like all the air had been sucked out of the room. She had been hoping that William would tell her he loved her and wanted to work on their problems together. She had been praying that he would admit he had been distant lately and promised to try harder to connect with her. Instead, William was agreeing with her that their marriage was broken, and he did not seem interested in trying to fix it. William continued talking in his flat, emotionless voice. He said that maybe they had both changed too much to go back to being the people they used to be when they were happy. He told Kate that maybe some things could not be repaired once they were broken. William said these words like he was discussing the weather or what to have for breakfast tomorrow morning. Kate felt like she was drowning in the silence that filled the room after William stopped talking. She realized that her worst fear was coming true. The man she had loved for 8 years was telling her that their marriage was over, and he did not care enough to fight for it. Kate understood that William had already left her emotionally a long time ago. She had just been too afraid to admit it to herself until now. The whisper that was supposed to save their marriage had instead revealed the truth that Kate had been trying not to see. William was not the man she had married anymore, and he was not interested in becoming that man again. Kate felt her heart break into pieces as she realized that some love stories do not have happy endings, no matter how hard you try to write them that way. The morning after Kate whispered the truth that broke everything, she woke up alone in their king-sized bed. She could hear William moving around in the guest bedroom down the hall. The sound of drawers opening and closing told her that he was packing clothes into the dresser that used to hold only extra blankets and pillows for visitors. Kate lay in bed staring at the ceiling and trying to understand how her life had changed so completely in the space of one conversation. Yesterday morning she had been a married woman who was fighting to save her relationship. Today she felt like a stranger living in a house that no longer felt like home. William came downstairs for breakfast wearing a suit she had never seen before. He poured coffee into his travel mug without making eye contact with Kate. When she asked if he wanted eggs or toast, he shook his head and said he would eat something at work. William left the house 20 minutes earlier than usual and did not say goodbye. Kate called in sick to school even though she was not physically ill. She spent the day walking through their house like she was seeing it for the first time. The wedding pictures on the mantel looked like photographs of people she used to know a long time ago. The furniture they had chosen together seemed to belong to a different couple who had once been happy in this place. At 3 o'clock, Kate's sister Rachel called to check on her. Kate had sent Rachel a text message that morning explaining what had happened the night before. Rachel offered to drive over and spend the afternoon with Kate, but Kate said she needed to be alone to think about what came next. Kate's friends, Sarah, Jennifer, and Lisa, all called within the next few days. Word had spread quickly through their small circle that Kate and William's marriage was in trouble. Each friend offered different advice about how to win William back, or whether Kate should consider couples counseling, or if she should give him space to figure out what he really wanted. But Kate could see in William's eyes that he had already made his decision. He was polite when they had to speak to each other about practical things like who would pick up the dry cleaning, or whether they needed milk from the grocery store. But William treated Kate like she was a roommate he barely knew, rather than the woman he had promised to love for the rest of his life. Kate took a deep breath and decided that she could not wait any longer to have this conversation. She had been carrying around all these feelings for too long, and it was making her sick inside. Kate knew that what she was about to say could either save their marriage or destroy it completely. But she also knew that staying quiet was not working, and something had to change between them. Kate opened her mouth to speak and felt like she was about to jump off a cliff. She did not know what William would say or how he would react to hearing the truth about how she had been feeling. All Kate knew was that she could not keep living like a stranger in her own marriage. She had to find out if there was anything left worth fighting for between them. The words Kate had been practicing all week were ready to come out. She looked at William and prepared to tell him everything that had been breaking her heart for months. Kate realized that this conversation would change everything between them one way or another. There would be no going back to pretending that everything was fine after tonight. Kate looked into William's eyes and searched for any sign of the man who used to make her laugh until her stomach hurt. She was looking for the man who used to bring her flowers for no reason and leave sweet notes in her lunchbox. She was hoping to find some trace of the William who used to hold her hand during scary movies and tell her she was the most beautiful woman in the world. But the William sitting across from her on the couch felt like a stranger wearing her husband's face. Kate realized that she had been waiting for months for him to notice that something was wrong between them. She had been hoping he would ask her why she seemed sad or why they never talked anymore. She had been praying that he would fight for their marriage without her having to ask him to. Kate's hands were shaking as she turned her whole body to face William on the couch. Her heart was beating so fast she was afraid he might be able to hear it. All the words she had practiced saying seemed to disappear from her mind. Kate felt like she was standing at the edge of a deep canyon and was about to jump without knowing if there was anything to catch her fall. William was looking at her with a confused expression on his face. He could tell that Kate wanted to say something important, but he seemed uncomfortable with the serious mood that had suddenly filled the room. William reached for the television remote like he was planning to find another movie for them to watch together. Kate reached out and gently took the remote from William's hand. She set it on the coffee table and moved closer to him on the couch. Kate could smell this familiar cologne and see the small scar above his left eyebrow that he had gotten when he was 7 years old. These were the details about William that she had memorized during their 8 years together. But somehow knowing these small things about him made her realize how little she really knew about who he had become. Kate took a deep breath and felt like she was about to say the most important words of her entire life. Her voice came out as barely more than a whisper when she finally started talking. She told William that she felt like she was married to a ghost. She said that he was there in their house every day, but he was not really there with her in any way that mattered. Kate continued talking in her quiet voice that sounded like it might break at any moment. She told William that she missed the man she had married and she did not think he missed her at all. She said that they had stopped being a couple and had become two people who shared a house and a bank account, but nothing else that was important. As Kate spoke, she watched William's face change from confusion to something that looked almost like pain. For a moment, she thought she saw tears starting to form in his eyes. Kate felt hopeful that maybe her words were reaching him and reminding him of what they used to have together. Maybe this conversation would be the beginning of finding their way back to each other. But then William's expression hardened into something cold and distant. He stood up from the couch and walked across the room to the window that looked out onto their front yard. William stood with his back to Kate for what felt like a very long time. Kate could see his shoulders tense up and his hands clench into fists at his sides. But the truth was that she and William had been drifting apart for a long time, and neither of them had tried to stop it from happening. When Kate got home, William was already asleep. She sat in their dark living room and looked around at all the furniture and decorations they had chosen together when they were happy. Kate realized that a house full of beautiful things meant nothing if the people living in it had stopped caring about each other. She knew that something had to change soon, or there would be nothing left of their marriage to save. Kate spent the weekend thinking about everything Lisa had said at dinner. She walked through her house looking at the wedding pictures on the walls and the souvenirs from their trips together. Everything reminded her of who she and William used to be when they were happy. Kate realized that she had two choices. She could keep pretending that everything was fine and watch their marriage slowly die, or she could have an honest conversation with William about what was happening between them. Monday morning, Kate woke up with a knot in her stomach. She had decided that she needed to talk to William about their problems, but she was terrified of what might happen. What if he told her that he did not love her anymore? What if he said he wanted a divorce? What if he confirmed all the fears that had been growing in her mind for months? At school, Kate could barely concentrate on teaching her students. During math lesson, she wrote the wrong numbers on the whiteboard twice. At lunchtime, she forgot to eat her sandwich and just sat in the teacher's lounge staring out the window. Mrs. Peterson asked if she was feeling sick and suggested she go home early, but Kate knew that going home would not make her feel better. Kate spent the whole week planning what she wanted to say to William. She wrote notes on small pieces of paper that she kept in her purse. She practiced the conversation while she drove to work and while she graded papers after school. Kate tried to think of the right words that would make William understand how she was feeling without making him angry or defensive. But every evening when Kate got home from school, William seemed more distant than ever. He would barely look up from his computer when she walked into the house. At dinner, he would eat quickly and then disappear back into his office. Kate began to wonder if William was avoiding her on purpose, because he could sense that she wanted to have a serious conversation. By Thursday, Kate felt like she was going to explode if she did not talk to someone soon. She called her sister Rachel, who lived in the next town over. Rachel had been married for 10 years and had always given Kate good advice about relationships. Kate told Rachel everything that had been happening with William over the past few months. Rachel listened carefully and then told Kate that she was proud of her for wanting to fight for her marriage. Rachel said that many couples go through difficult times, but the ones who survive are the ones who are brave enough to talk honestly about their problems. Rachel encouraged Kate to have the conversation with William as soon as possible before things got even worse between them. Friday evening, William came home from work earlier than usual. Kate was surprised to see him walk through the door at 6 o'clock instead of his usual 7:30. He even seemed to be in a better mood than he had been in weeks. William asked Kate about her day and actually listened to her answer. He helped her set the table for dinner, and they ate together without any awkward silences. After dinner, William suggested they watch a movie together on the couch. Kate could not remember the last time he had wanted to spend time with her like this. They sat next to each other while an old romantic comedy played on the television. Kate found herself hoping that maybe their problems were solving themselves, and she would not need to have the difficult conversation she had been planning. But Kate knew that one pleasant evening did not fix months of growing apart. She realized that this might be the perfect opportunity to talk to William while he seemed relaxed and open to spending time with her. Kate felt her heart start beating faster as she thought about bringing up their relationship problems. She was afraid that talking about these things might ruin the nice evening they were having together. When the movie ended, Kate turned to face William on the couch. She looked into his eyes and tried to see some sign of the man she had fallen in love with 8 years earlier. William smiled at her, and for a moment Kate felt hopeful that maybe they could work through their problems together. Maybe he had been feeling the same loneliness she had been feeling. Maybe he wanted to fix their marriage as much as she did. Kate had not seen her college friends in over 2 months. She used to meet with Sarah, Jennifer, and Lisa every few weeks for dinner and drinks. They would catch up on each other's lives and laugh about old memories from their university days. But lately Kate had been making excuses to avoid these gatherings because she did not want to answer questions about how things were going with William. Sarah called Kate on a Wednesday afternoon and would not take no for an answer. She told Kate that they were all worried about her because she had been so quiet lately. Sarah said they were meeting at Antonio's Italian restaurant that Friday night, and Kate needed to be there. Kate tried to say she was busy, but Sarah hung up the phone before Kate could make another excuse. Friday evening, Kate drove to the restaurant feeling nervous about seeing her friends. She had not told anyone about the problems in her marriage. She had always been the one with the perfect relationship that the other women envied. Kate worried about what she would say if they asked her direct questions about William. Her 3 friends were already sitting at their usual table when Kate arrived. They all hugged her and said she looked too thin and asked if she was eating enough. Jennifer ordered a bottle of wine, and they spent the first hour talking about work and family news and other safe topics. Kate started to relax and think maybe she could get through the evening without talking about her personal problems. But Lisa had always been the most direct person in their group. She had gone through a difficult divorce 2 years earlier and had learned to recognize the signs when someone was struggling in their marriage. After they finished eating their main course, Lisa looked straight at Kate and asked her what was really going on at home. Kate tried to laugh and say everything was fine. She told them that William was just busy with work, and they were both tired from their regular routines. Sarah and Jennifer nodded and seemed satisfied with this explanation. But Lisa kept staring at Kate with a serious expression on her face. Lisa asked Kate when was the last time she and William had gone somewhere together just for fun. Kate thought about it and realized she could not remember. Lisa asked when was the last time William had surprised her with flowers or a special dinner. Again, Kate could not think of an answer. Lisa asked when was the last time Kate had felt excited to see William come home from work. Kate felt tears starting to form in her eyes. She looked down at her plate and tried to think of something to say that would change the subject. But the questions had opened a door in her mind that she had been trying to keep closed. All the loneliness and sadness she had been carrying around for months suddenly felt too heavy to hold inside anymore. Kate started talking and could not stop. She told her friends about the anniversary dinner when William ignored her while she tried to tell them about her day. She described how he came home later every night and spent all his time working on his computer. She explained how they had stopped having real conversations and how she felt like she was living with a stranger. Sarah and Jennifer looked shocked to hear these things. They had always thought Kate and William had the perfect marriage. They offered advice about how all couples go through rough patches and suggested that Kate should plan a nice vacation or maybe try couples counseling. They said William was probably just stressed about work and things would get better soon. But Lisa listened quietly while Kate talked and did not offer any quick solutions. When Kate finished explaining everything, Lisa reached across the table and took her hand. Lisa told Kate something that hit her like a punch in the stomach. She said, "Honey, you are already living like you are divorced. You are just sharing the same house." The words hung in the air while Kate tried to process what Lisa had said. Kate wanted to argue and defend her marriage, but she realized that Lisa was telling the truth. Kate and William were not acting like a married couple anymore. They were acting like two people who happened to live in the same place, but had separate lives that never intersected. Lisa continued talking in a gentle but honest voice. She told Kate that during her own divorce, she had spent months pretending everything was fine when everyone around her could see that her marriage was over. Lisa said that sometimes love is not enough to save a relationship when two people have grown apart and stopped trying to grow back together. Kate drove home that night feeling like she had been hit by a truck. Lisa's words kept echoing in her head. She realized that she had been making excuses for William's behavior and convincing herself that their problems were temporary. Kate started having conversations with William in her head while she was alone. She would practice what she wanted to say to him while she drove to work in the morning. She would imagine telling him how lonely she felt and how much she missed talking to him about important things. In her head, William would listen carefully and tell her that he missed her too and that they could work together to fix their problems. But when Kate got home from school each day, the real William would be sitting at the kitchen table with his laptop open and papers spread everywhere. He would look up and say hello when she walked in, but then he would go right back to his work. Kate would stand in the doorway watching him type, and all the words she had practiced saying would disappear from her mind. At school, Kate found it harder to concentrate on her students. During story time, she would start reading a book about a happy family and suddenly feel tears coming to her eyes. She would have to stop reading and take a drink of water while the children waited patiently for her to continue. Little Emma Rodriguez asked her one day if she was sad about something. Kate told Emma that sometimes grown-ups get sad just like children do, but that it would be okay. Kate began staying even later at school just to avoid going home. She would clean her classroom until it was spotless and then clean it again. She would make lesson plans for the next month, even though she usually only planned 1 week ahead. The janitor, Mr. Garcia, would find her still working at 6 o'clock at night and tell her she needed to go home to her husband. But home did not feel like home anymore. Kate would walk into their house and feel like she was entering a museum where she was not allowed to touch anything or make any noise. William would be in his office with the door closed or on the couch watching television with the volume turned low. Kate would make dinner and eat it alone while William worked or claimed he was not hungry yet. Kate started writing letters to William that she never planned to give him. She would sit at the kitchen table after dinner and write about how much she missed him even though he was sitting in the next room. She wrote about how she wanted to tell him funny stories about her students, but he never seemed interested in listening. She wrote about how she wished they could go back to being the couple who used to talk for hours about everything and nothing. The letters filled up a whole notebook that Kate kept hidden in her dresser drawer. Writing them made her feel a little better, but also made her realize how many things she was keeping inside. She was carrying around all these feelings and thoughts with no one to share them with. It felt like trying to hold water in her hands. The harder she tried to keep it in, the more it slipped through her fingers. William's work seemed to become more important every week. He would get phone calls during dinner and have to step outside to talk privately. He would work on his laptop until late at night and then come to bed after Kate was already asleep. On weekends, he would go to the office or meet with clients at coffee shops around town. Kate began to wonder if William was telling her the truth about all this work. She started paying attention to small details like how often his phone rang and what time he came home each night. She felt guilty for not trusting him, but she also felt like she did not really know him anymore. The William she married would have included her in his problems and asked for her support when work was stressful. One evening, Kate decided to surprise William by bringing him a sandwich and a cup of coffee while he worked in his office. She knocked on the door softly and waited for him to say, "Come in." When she opened the door, William quickly closed his laptop screen and looked startled to see her. Kate set the food on his desk and noticed that his computer screen had been showing something that was not work-related. She did not get a good look at what it was, but she knew it was not architectural drawings or client emails. Kate left the office without saying anything, but her heart was beating fast. She went to their bedroom and sat on the edge of the bed trying to understand what she had seen. She realized that William was not just distant from her. He was hiding things from her. Kate felt like she was living with a stranger who looked like her husband, but acted like someone completely different. That night, Kate lay awake listening to William typing in his office until very late. She wondered how long they could keep living like this. She wondered if William was as unhappy as she was, or if he even noticed that their marriage was falling apart. Kate realized that she was afraid to find out the answers to these questions because she might not like what she learned. Kate decided she would not give up on her marriage without fighting for it. She spent her lunch break at school making a list of all the things she and William used to enjoy doing together. The list included hiking at Pine Mountain, trying new restaurants, playing board games on rainy afternoons, and watching old movies while sharing a bowl of popcorn. That Friday evening, Kate suggested they spend the weekend at Cedar Lake Lodge. It was the same place where William had proposed to her 3 years earlier. She remembered how nervous he had been that day. His hands were shaking when he got down on one knee beside the water. Kate had started crying before he even finished asking the question because she was so happy. William agreed to go to the lake, but Kate could tell he was not excited about it. She made all the arrangements and packed their bags while he sat at his computer answering work emails. Kate packed William's favorite snacks and the books they used to read to each other. She made a playlist of songs that reminded her of when they were dating and first falling in love. The drive to Cedar Lake took 2 hours. Kate tried to start conversations about the scenery and the other cars on the road. She pointed out a red barn that looked like a picture on a postcard and a field full of cows that were all lying down in the shade. William would nod and make short comments, but mostly he drove in silence, while Kate talked to fill the quiet spaces. When they arrived at the lodge, Kate felt hopeful for the first time in months. Their cabin was small and cozy with a fireplace and a view of the lake through the front windows. Kate unpacked their clothes while William sat on the porch and made phone calls about work. She could hear him through the screen door, talking about blueprints and client meetings and deadlines. Saturday morning, they took a hike on the trail around the lake. Kate remembered how they used to hold hands while walking and stop to take pictures of each other by the pretty views. This time, William walked a few steps ahead of her and seemed eager to finish the hike quickly. Kate took pictures with her phone, but most of them were of William's back as he walked away from her. They had lunch at the lodge restaurant, where they used to sit for hours talking about their dreams and plans for the future. Kate ordered the same sandwich she had eaten on their first trip to this place. She wanted to ask William if he remembered that day, but she was afraid of his answer. William ate his food quickly and kept checking his watch like he had somewhere important to be. That afternoon, Kate suggested they rent a canoe like they used to do. William said he would rather rest in the cabin and catch up on some reading. Kate went to the lake by herself and sat on the dock watching other couples paddle around in their boats. A young man and woman in a red canoe were laughing so hard they could barely row straight. Kate remembered when she and William used to laugh like that together. Saturday evening, they built a fire in the fireplace, and Kate brought out the old photo albums she had packed. She thought looking at pictures of their happy times might remind William of how good things used to be between them. They sat on the couch together, and Kate turned the pages slowly. There were pictures from their wedding day, and their honeymoon, and Christmas mornings and birthday parties. William looked at the pictures politely, but Kate could tell he was just being nice. He would say things like, "That was a good day," or "You look pretty in that one," but his voice sounded flat and distant. Kate realized that looking at their old pictures was making her feel worse instead of better. The people in those photographs looked like strangers to her now. Sunday morning, they packed up their things and drove home. Kate felt like the weekend had been a failure. She had hoped that getting away from their regular routine would help them remember why they fell in love in the first place. Instead, the trip had shown her just how far apart they had grown. Even in the romantic setting where William had proposed to her, they'd felt like two strangers who happened to be sharing the same cabin. On the drive home, Kate stared out the window and realized that you cannot force someone to love you the way they used to. You cannot make someone want to spend time with you or talk to you or care about the same things you care about. Kate felt like she was trying to water a plant that had already died. Kate woke up every morning hoping that today would be different. She would make William's favorite breakfast of scrambled eggs and wheat toast. She would brew his coffee exactly the way he liked it, with 2 sugars and a splash of cream. She would set the newspaper beside his plate, folded to the sports section, because she remembered he used to read it first thing every morning. But William would come downstairs already dressed for work and grab a granola bar from the pantry instead. He would pour his coffee into a travel mug and say he was running late for an early meeting. Kate would sit alone at the kitchen table eating the breakfast she had made for 2 people. The eggs would get cold and the toast would get hard while she wondered why she kept trying. At school, Kate found herself staying later each afternoon. She would organize her classroom supplies and make bulletin boards that did not really need to be made. She would grade papers that could wait until tomorrow. Anything to avoid going home to an empty house, even though she knew William would be there. Mrs. Peterson, the teacher in the classroom next door, noticed that Kate seemed different. During lunch break, she would ask Kate if everything was okay at home. Kate would always smile and say that everything was fine. She would change the subject and ask about Mrs. Peterson's weekend plans or complain about the new curriculum requirements. But Kate was not fine. She felt like she was carrying a heavy weight in her chest everywhere she went. Simple things like choosing what to make for dinner became difficult decisions. She would stand in the grocery store staring at packages of chicken and ground beef for 10 minutes without being able to pick one. Nothing seemed to matter anymore because she knew William would eat whatever she cooked without really tasting it. William's work schedule became more demanding, or at least that is what he told Kate. He started leaving the house at 7 in the morning instead of 8. He would come home at 7:30 at night instead of 6. On Saturdays, he would go to the office for a few hours to catch up on projects that were behind schedule. Kate began to feel like she was married to a ghost. William would walk through their house like a person who was just visiting. He would sit on their couch and watch television, but Kate could tell his mind was somewhere else. When she would try to start a conversation about their day or their weekend plans or anything at all, William would give short answers that ended the discussion before it really began. Their evening walks around the neighborhood became shorter and less frequent. Kate would suggest they take a walk after dinner, and William would say he had emails to answer or phone calls to make. Kate started walking by herself sometimes. She would wave to Mrs. Henderson on her porch and pretend that William was just busy with important work. The silence in their house grew louder every day. Kate would turn on the radio while she cooked dinner just to have some noise in the kitchen. She would leave the television on even when no one was watching it, because the voices of the actors made the house feel less empty. Kate realized that she and William had stopped sharing the little details of their lives with each other. She did not know what projects he was working on at his job. He did not know the names of her new students or which ones were struggling with reading. They had become 2 people who shared a house and a last name, but nothing else that really mattered. At night, Kate would lie in bed and listen to William breathing beside her. She would wonder how 2 people could be so close together but feel so far apart. She started to understand that loneliness was not about being alone. Loneliness was about being with someone who was not really there. The first crack appeared on a Tuesday evening at Romano's Italian restaurant. Kate had made reservations 3 weeks earlier to celebrate their 5th wedding anniversary. She wore the blue dress that William once said made her eyes look like sapphires. She had spent an hour getting ready and even bought new lipstick that matched her dress perfectly. Kate arrived at the restaurant first and chose their usual table by the window. She watched couples at other tables talking and laughing together. A young man at the corner table was showing pictures on his phone to his girlfriend, who kept giggling and covering her mouth with her hands. An older couple near the kitchen was sharing a piece of chocolate cake and feeding each other small bites. William walked in 15 minutes late. He sat down across from Kate and immediately pulled out his phone to check his messages. Kate had been practicing what she wanted to tell him about her day. She was excited to share the story about Emma Rodriguez, a quiet little girl in her class who had finally raised her hand to answer a question for the first time all year. Kate started talking while William scrolled through his emails. She described how Emma's face had lit up when she correctly answered that 2 plus 3 equals 5. Kate explained how the other children had clapped for Emma and how proud the little girl had looked. She was in the middle of telling William about how Emma's mother would be so happy to hear this news when she realized William was not listening at all. William was typing a response to someone while Kate spoke. His fingers moved quickly across his phone screen, and his eyebrows were pulled together in concentration. Kate stopped talking in the middle of her sentence and waited. She counted to 10 in her head. Then she counted to 20. William continued typing. Finally, Kate said William's name quietly. He looked up with a confused expression and asked what was wrong. Kate felt a tight feeling in her chest, like someone was squeezing her heart. She forced her mouth into a smile and said nothing was wrong. But something was very wrong, and they both knew it. The waiter came to take their order. William chose his usual chicken parmesan without looking at the menu. Kate ordered the same thing she always got but realized she was not hungry anymore. William put his phone face down on the table, but Kate could see it lighting up every few minutes with new messages. They ate their dinner mostly in silence. William would make small comments about the weather or ask Kate to pass the salt. Kate would nod and smile, but inside, she felt like she was sitting alone at the table. This was supposed to be their special anniversary dinner, but it felt like any other Tuesday night. After dinner, they drove home in William's car. Kate stared out the passenger window at the houses they passed. She noticed that many of the windows were glowing with warm yellow light. She wondered if the people inside those houses were talking to each other or if they were all looking at their phones too. When they got home, William went straight to his home office. He said he needed to finish some work before bed. Kate changed out of her blue dress and hung it back in the closet. She looked at herself in the bedroom mirror and tried to remember the last time William had told her she looked beautiful. Kate went to the kitchen and made herself a cup of tea. She sat at their small breakfast table and thought about Emma Rodriguez. At least someone had been excited to share good news with her today. Kate realized that she could not remember the last time William had shared anything important with her. She finished her tea and went to bed alone. William was still in his office with the door closed. Kate lay in the dark and listened to the sound of his computer keyboard clicking through the walls. She wondered when they had stopped talking to each other and started living like strangers who happened to share the same house.